So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make Afro House like Night Freak. And we're going to be going over my new song that just came out, Mwana. If you want to stream it, it's going to be over here. And yeah, this is some of the support that this song has gotten. So yeah, let's get right into the video. Okay, so let's start like we usually do and start with the drop. So to make a Night Freak drop, it's pretty simple. All you really want to do is kind of get a lead that's a bit dirty-ish, and it's not kind of like as pluggy. It's kind of like an actual synth, and you kind of want to have some offbeat, and that's pretty much it. Like, you don't really need a single repeating note melody like we usually do for the other Afro House tracks. So for example, for this song, I got this preset right here, which sounds like this. And then I decided to play it with the octave. So I'm going, from a G6 to a G7, or G5, sorry, to a G6. So, and this is what it sounds like without anything else. And then to add some accents, I decided to add this little offbeat sound, which sounds like this. That's it. So if you want to hear both leads together, this is what they sound like. It is super simple, it is super basic, like I always do. But for example, with this specifically, this little sound, I wanted to pan it. I kind of wanted to add some movement to it, so I decided to pan it manually, and this is what it sounds like. Okay, now moving on to the chords. The chords are pretty basic. It's just 3 chords, like most of my songs, and this is what it sounds like. Simple. You don't have to complicate it. It sounds beautiful, it sounds simple, and it fits perfectly with the rest of the elements that I already showed you. So here's everything together. Okay, so now moving on to the bass. The bass just follows the bass notes of the chords, and it's super simple. This is what it looks like, and here's the sound design to it. So I have a sub bass, and then I have like this reese bass on top, which sounds like this. So yeah, it kind of gives it like a dirtier sound. And for example, something I always do for the bass, especially in the drop, because the kick is louder, I add a sidechain. So I have the shaper box, just kind of like a default setting. That's gonna make it easier for you to mix in the kick and the bass. It's probably one of the simplest like forms of mixing kick and bass, and it's been around for ages. But if you didn't know, now you know. Now moving on to the percussion, I had to add my favorite Afro House sound, which is this tom right here. And everyone knows I love this because I honestly think I've mentioned it in every video, but it's this one. Oh wait, that has a filter, so that's awkward. There we go. And yeah, I did a little bit of processing to it. So this is what I did to it. I did the E setting with a little bit of drive, just 1.6, nothing too crazy. I used the pumping preset here on the glue compressor, and I'm pretty sure I only have it to do like max -3. Yeah. It's literally like -1 dB of compression, so it's nothing crazy. And then I have some EQ to cut off. My mustache is itchy. My mustache is very itchy. Do you ever get that? Like your hairs of the mustache kind of start like tickling your nose, and then it becomes very itchy. Okay, so I also added this EQ, which is just cutting off the low, because we want to eliminate any unwanted low frequencies. Honestly, like it's gonna make your clean. It's gonna make your clean mixture. It's gonna make your mix so much cleaner. God, my English is not working today. It's gonna make your mix so much cleaner. There we go. And yeah, anytime I do like my one-on-one sessions, this is a huge issue I see. People are just trying to be lazy and not EQ pretty much every sound, at least when it comes to the low frequencies. Bro, if you have 30, 50 sounds and you're leaving those unwanted low frequencies, that's gonna start adding up, bro. You're adding 30 to 50 sounds which should not be there in the low frequency. And then you're asking yourself why your kick isn't pumping, why your toms are very hard to hear, why the bass sounds so weird, and it's because of that. So save yourself some time, save yourself some like headaches, and just EQ every sound that does not need to have like those very low frequencies, and then you're gonna thank me later. So yeah, I also added this other sound which is very similar to the one I showed you before, which this is from a Kind of Music sample pack, and this is what it sounds like. So yeah, those two sounds go really well put together. At least I think so. So this is what it sounds like put together. Okay, so I didn't include this sound in like my leads because I think it's more of a percussion sound. It's this plucky sound thingy. And yeah, I just kind of have it repeating. I added some of this panning and some sidechain, and that's gonna give it the movement we want. And this is what it sounds like in the track. Okay, so moving on to the shakers. I only have 2 loops. I usually don't make the shaker loops myself. I usually just get them from like supplies or sample packs I have. If I do make it myself, it just takes longer because of the processing and all that. And yeah. So this is what the loops I chose sound like. And yeah, now the whole thing puts you okay, and here's the kick. And if you're wondering like, bro, what's your processing for the kick, whatever, this is it. Nothing. There's literally nothing. I don't process my kicks usually. If I do, it's because I want to change like some of the unwanted frequencies because they're clashing with the bass, but usually I don't touch the kick. A lot of these samples that you're getting are very good quality. So if you're adding like so much distortion, saturation, you're just fucking up the sound at that point. If you really don't know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, then cool. Keep doing it. But if you don't, you're gonna fuck up your sound. But yeah, here's what the drop sounds like. Now moving on to the second drop, I added this piano melody. And this is something I always talk about to people in like one-on-one sessions and all that stuff is, bro, your chords are very boring. Let's be honest. Like if you're doing chords like this, like mine, this is boring as hell. You need some movement. You gotta spice it up somehow. So the way most people do that is by doing a little piano melody. For example, for me, it sounds like this. Or you can actually play with the chord progression and make it more complicated and whatever. It just depends on the song, at least for me. But for this one, I really like that piano melody, so I did that. Okay, so now, you sitting at home, when you're going for the second drop of your song and you don't know what else to add or whatever, just add a little melody like that. You saw how easy it is. It's literally like a little clink. And then what? Let's count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 notes total, and it repeats throughout the whole song, but it gives it so much of a different vibe, I guess. Feeling. That's what I wanted to say. It gives it a different feeling, so I really recommend that. Like, bro, 7 notes is all it takes for you to change the whole feeling of the song. Literally, this. Once you start hearing that, it gives it a completely different feeling than to not having it. Like, let's take a look without it. You can only hear the chord going dun, dun, like it's boring. But now if I add the melody, so it's a different feeling. It's the same drop, but with 7 notes, you're able to completely change it. And the people are not going to get bored throughout the whole song because it sounds the same. I have a Spotify playlist with like 2.5k followers, and I curated myself. And there's so many tracks that get sent that just, it's literally a loop. The whole time is a loop. There's nothing interesting. It sounds the same and it's super boring. And it's the tracks that have like this tiny stuff, you know, like a little variation on the chords, a little variation on the melody, or introducing a new counter melody, which are the ones that grab my attention and I go, okay, I can add this to my playlist. Including the playlist, the one-on-one sessions I do, my track stack, and everything else, DMs, whatever. I probably get sent out more than 30 tracks per week. And a lot of times it's a lot of garbage, and it's not garbage because you guys don't know how to produce. It's just because you're lazy and you're not willing to put in the work to just add something new or try to, you know, spend an extra week on your song trying to come up with a new counter melody that's going to change up or spice up your songs. And bro, trust me, I get it. I do this shit all the time. For example, this song in particular, I played it live and I thought the hi-hats were a bit too high. So if you listen to the hi-hats, they're a bit too loud and they're a bit too harsh, even on the master. And I realized it when I was playing it live. But even with that, I was just so excited to get the song out, which I sent it out for promos. I sent it out to the label. I sent it out to everyone. And I really never changed it. So that was my bad because I was just lazy with it. So yeah, I would just recommend that. Spend a little bit more time with your songs. Trust me, you won't regret it. Okay, so now moving on to the next part of the song, we're gonna be going over the vocals, and I really want to go over this because first, I got a comment today asking if I could go over my vocal chain and all that, and second, because I just used a vocal sample, and this is my way of making it interesting, you know? So, vocal chain. This is usually what I do. I have this Jack Joseph Puig, aka JJP, I think, plugin. Um, I use the pop box for this one. I always use presets. Use your presets in your plugins, trust me. And then I modify it a little bit. So I modified it a bit in that sense. I have my Pro Q3 here, and then this right here is doing a dip in a harsh unwanted frequency that I did not like. Then I have some R Vox. I have an CLA3 and have another R Vox compressor. So I'm doing all this compression because it's gonna be able to push the vocal without distorting it too much. So yeah, this is pretty much my vocal chain for all my vocals. It depends sometimes. There's sometimes where I don't use the JJP or I use CLA vocals, but I'm usually using Waves plugins to mix my vocals. So yeah, moving on, I have a decapitator, just a little bit, so it gets a little bit brighter. And I have an Oxford inflator, so I can keep pushing the vocals volume a little bit higher without it still distortioning it or, you know, adding too much set. Yeah, without it distorting. There we go, English. And then I have a little limiter, nothing too crazy. Bro, the attack is 275 milliseconds, release 400 milliseconds, and the look ahead is 0.18, which I'm pretty sure this is the default setting, just overall. I think I just put like 1.4 increase, and that was it. If you want me to go more in depth on why I use so much compression or whatever, I can for sure do a whole other video about that because it takes time and I really have to, you know, deep dive into it. Okay, so now as you can see, my vocal buzz is being sent to a vocal send where I have my reverb and my delay. For example, for this song, I didn't use a delay because I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it sounded, so I just kept it with the reverb. The reverb is just the default Valhalla Room settings with the 5-second decay, pre-delay 0, high cut a little bit, and then 50, well, high cut quite a bit actually, but 50% depth. And then as you can see, this volume is almost the same as my vocal buzz. It's just a little bit higher because I wanted it to be more of like a dreamy vocal, you know, I really wanted that reverb to stand out. And then I have a little Pro Q3 here, cutting off some of the unwanted low frequencies and some of the unwanted high frequencies, especially when it comes to reverb. Okay, so now moving on, I also have this other vocal chain, where it's for the build-up vocals. They have way more reverb and way more delay, so it sounds like this. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the vocals. Something I do is, for example, this vocal buzz chain, whatever, I think it really works out for me. So I have it literally saved. So if you go here and you hit vocals, it will just load everything else. And then all I have to do is I toggle everything off and I then tweak it on so it sounds good for that particular vocal. And that's like what I said, like there's a lot of times where this JJP plugin I won't use, or this, you know, CLA vocals are better. And yeah, when it comes to mixing and especially like mixing vocals and whatever, there's no one way to do it because each vocal you're working with is going to be different. So just experiment, try to have a template that really works out for you. This really works out for me. And then yeah, just kind of fuck around with it for each project. Also, I'm going to give you a little tip, especially if you're using like vocals from Splice or whatever, and they're just simple vocals where it's just like a repeating loop, like this one, as you can see. Try to manipulate it and change it so it has some variation to it. There's a lot of tracks I get sent as well where it's just the vocal loop playing for like 3 minutes and it gets super repetitive and boring. And that's just a tip if you're using like sample vocals. There's always a way to spice it up. So don't be afraid to just really experiment with the vocal, create vocal chubs, or, you know, even layer your harmonies yourself. Just play around with it and don't just keep it in a loop because it becomes really boring. Now, moving on to the final section that I really want to hit is the break. Since this is a sample vocal and it's just a loop, I wanted it to, you know, not repeat throughout the whole song, and I wanted the break to be a little bit more innovative and kind of more like nature vibe. So yeah, the sound design for this song was kind of like that. Like I really wanted it to be African. I mean, the vocals are African, so I wanted, you know, to kind of incorporate those elements into it. So yeah, for the break, as you can see, the sound design is super organic. I'm using pretty much all these sounds that Kind of reminds me of like jungle vibes and like, I don't know. I thought it was cool. But yeah, that's gonna be pretty much it for the break. I really went for that like organic sound design. I didn't use an LFO pad. I didn't use anything too crazy or overwhelming. I wanted to keep it that natural vibe. And then for the build up, same vocal repeats, and then this is where I introduce the piano. So here comes like the last part of the build up. So yeah, that's pretty much gonna be it for this video, I think, because we went over the drop, we went over the break, and we went over the vocals, which I know I wanted to go over the vocals because of the comment I got today. If you liked today's video, please let me know, and if you didn't like it, also let me know. I'm always trying to improve the videos, and I'm always trying to get the suggestions from the comments. For example, I went over the vocals because a comment said it, and in my last video, I also went over something else because another comment said it. And yeah, if you want to follow me in other social medias, I'm going to have a link at the top of the description with that. And also, if you want to stream my song Mwana, which is the song that we just went over today, please do so. I'm also going to have a link in the description for that. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for the support in this channel. I don't promote this channel in other social medias. Like, no one knows I have this channel. And I haven't even been able to post consistently, and it's still growing. I really want to say thank you to each and every single one of you that supports me. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one.